Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the absolutely incredible, honestly heist-like story of Anna Sorokin's transformation into the infamous Anna Delvey. Let's just dive right in, because there's a defining quote from our sources that really sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack.
And here it is. I'd be lying to you and everyone else, and to myself, if I said I was sorry for anything. Wow. This unapologetic statement comes straight from Anna herself. Our sources detail the truly astonishing journey of how a self-described, working-class girl managed to entirely reinvent her identity and, well, effectively scam the highest echelons of the Manhattan elite. She makes it perfectly clear she isn't sorry. She just wanted her slice of the American dream. So let's look at exactly how she built this wild illusion from the ground up.
Section 1. The making of a fake. From small town to high society. So, let's explore the roots of this con. If we track her rapid movement across Europe, it reveals a pretty deep desperation for fame. Growing up in a drab Russian town, she felt completely surrounded by people with zero taste. She was actually even mocked for carrying a quirky harmonica water bottle of all things. This frustration really drove her. She quit a dull London art school, interned in Berlin, and ultimately fled rent debt in Paris. And then, within 48 hours, she lands in New York City with literally $20 in her pocket, ready for a total reinvention. Which brings us to this crucial concept, reinvention. When she hit New York, she completely abandoned her working-class Russian past to become Anna Delvey, posing as this incredibly wealthy German heiress. To get into an exclusive New York Fashion Week event using just her Purple magazine intern badge, she pulled off a staggering bit of manipulation. When they asked for ID to verify she was on the guest list, she completely fabricated a story about going through a messy divorce. She even practiced weeping, a skill she apparently honed back in Russia just to garner sympathy. And it worked. This act successfully manipulated a Vanity Fair photo editor named Rachel, who took pity on her and convinced the check-in staff to just let her through. I mean, think about the sheer audacity that takes. The fake heiress was officially inside.
Section 2. Conquering the Big Apple, the Grifter's Playbook.
All right, so now that she was in, she needed a system. Step 1, establish that fake wealthy German heiress identity. Step 2, leverage well-connected people like Rachel, who are unknowingly introducing her to Manhattan's elite. Rachel was the one showing her exactly where to eat and where to be seen. But step 3, that was the financial engine of the whole operation. She floated this entirely on credit. Anna opened 5 new credit cards just to maintain the sheer illusion of immense wealth.
To really legitimize her presence among these tastemakers, she pitched a massive grand vision, the Anna Delvey Organization. This was pitched as a private art foundation for New York's elite. She actively hunted for high society investors for this project. But, as you can imagine, maintaining that kind of facade is incredibly expensive. When she threw a swanky Hamptons party to attract these investors, her cards inevitably declined. Her solution? She simply pretended her ex-husband had frozen her accounts, and she leaned on her trusting friend Rachel to cover the expenses, promising, of course, to pay her back later.
Section 3. A $1 million mirage. Forging a fortune.
$22 million. Let that number sink in for a second. This is the staggering loan she attempted to secure from a bank to fund her so-called foundation. Now, because the banking system requires you to prove you already have money in order to borrow money, she straight up forged Swiss bank documents. She even created a fake email address for a completely fabricated financial advisor. And when the bank requested verification, get this, she simply replied to the email herself, assuring them that Anna Delvey was good for the money. And incredibly, at first, it actually worked.
The reality, however, $0. Her actual wealth was completely non-existent. She ultimately lost that massive loan because of one hasty, fatal error. She had told the bank she was born in Germany, but when they actually checked her paperwork, her passport clearly stated she was born in Russia. Unable to keep up with her own web of lies, the bank pulled the loan entirely.
So without that massive loan, she had to rely on a super precarious fallback strategy just to keep up her reputation. This breaks down exactly how she funded her lifestyle. A massive reliance on those new credit cards, an astonishing $80,000 in fake checks that she deposited, and just continuous loans from friends. She used these faked funds to rapidly check into a luxury Soho hotel, hire a personal trainer named Casey, treat the hotel staff to lavish spa days, and even book an extravagant, over-the-top vacation to Morocco with Rachel and Casey, all the while just crossing her fingers and hoping those fake checks wouldn't bounce until she returned.
Section 4. The Inevitable Downfall. House of Cards.
As you might guess, the collapse finally began in Morocco when her cards declined for real. Returning to New York, she found herself locked out of her hotel and a whopping $30,000 in debt. She grew desperate. She started employing what's called a kiting strategy, basically borrowing from a new bank to pay an old bank, opening even more new cards, and constantly hopping between hotels. By late 2017, after bouncing between 7 different hotels, her credit ran out entirely. The so-called heiress was suddenly sleeping in a car. Just look at how the victim stacked up as the reality of her debts really set in. We've got 4 hotels threatening to sue her, 6 restaurants demanding payment, 4 exclusive clubs owed money, and multiple credit card companies frantically searching for her. Her initial downfall came pretty swiftly. She was arrested by a gruff police officer simply for attempting to dine and dash. She spent a night in a cell and was sternly warned that the FBI was coming for her if she didn't settle her debts.
Fleeing New York, she managed to check into a fancy Malibu rehab center until her cards eventually failed there, too. Then came the sting. Her former friend Rachel lured her to a 5-star LA sushi restaurant under the guise of offering an olive branch, but instead, Anna was arrested right in front of the paparazzi, hit with federal charges for over $150,000 in debt. Rachel had exposed the entire fraud to the press.
Section 5. Crime, Fame, and Profit. The Paradox of Punishment.
Let's juxtapose the insane reality of her situation here. On one side, you have the harsh legal punishment. She was convicted of grand larceny and theft of services, sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison, and even spent time in solitary confinement after a physical altercation with another inmate. But on the other side, the reward. Rachel going to the press didn't destroy Anna, it actually made her famous. She incredibly had a wardrobe stylist for her trial, showing up in chic outfits that literally spawned dedicated Instagram accounts. She became a highly lucrative brand, treating solitary confinement not as a punishment, but as a quiet retreat to focus on her fashion sketches. No, seriously.
And the financial reward for her infamy was absolutely staggering. While she was still sitting in a jail cell, Netflix paid her almost $500,000 just to consult on a television show based on her unbelievable life story.
But wait, she matched that $500,000 again. After being released from prison in 2022 to serve the remainder of her sentence under house arrest, she generated another $500,000 entirely through sales of her own artwork. Our sources paint a really stark picture here. In her specific case, it really looks like crime actually paid.
Her post-prison life has basically been one long, unapologetic victory lap. She rented a flat in Greenwich Village, right among the creative minds she always wanted to be near. Secured that gallery show for her art, continued getting paid by the media for her story, and even landed a stint on Dancing with the Stars. She fully admits it wasn't the conventional route, but from her perspective, she successfully pulled it off. She achieved her own twisted version of the American dream.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. We've traced the anatomy of this con from a working-class town in Russia to the highest peaks of Manhattan society, and finally to a highly lucrative house arrest. It really forces us to look at our societal obsession with wealth, status, and fame. In a world so heavily built on image, did the ultimate fake actually win? Thanks so much for joining me to unpack all of this. Keep questioning the stories you see, and I'll catch you next time.